Hey guys, what's going on? Thanks again for taking a listen. This is Eric with the Rick team, and I'm also Shane as well. This podcast is going to be a little bit different, huh, Shane?
Yeah, it's first try at this, so let's see how it goes.
For sure. So this is going to be our first remote podcast. Shane's all the way up in Fresno. I'm down here in SoCal, and we're going to be doing video, but this will be audio only. So, yeah, pretty excited about it. I think this is going to open up a lot of uh, possibilities for us to have guests on and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm pretty stoked. But yeah, man, I just want to say it's been a year. A couple weeks ago, June 27th, it was a year for our podcast, and Shane and I wanted to get one out a couple weeks ago, but unfortunately, with the fires going on, everybody was pretty busy and stuff like that. So we just wanted to come on here, let everybody know we're still here, we're around, and give a quick overview of the past year, some of the stuff that I know for me personally, Shane, I don't know about you, but it's turned into something a lot better than I thought maybe it would have ever turned out to be, or it's turning into. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we started this a year ago, we're sitting in my backyard, like uh, we were just recording me talking about that shot because the conversation we'd had prior to recording, we both were like, yeah, all our guys should know about this, and you and I are both being in a podcast, so I think gave us the idea to do it, and I don't think either one of us expected it to be listened to by people on the East Coast.
No, no,
And
not at all, man.
so yeah.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool, dude. Yeah, it's just, on some of the notes we were talking about, hey, what do we want to talk about today? And some topics, and I just wanted to personally say thank you for everyone that's been listening to us for the past year. It's humbled me a lot in a lot of ways. People that have reached out to us have told us their personal stories. We've gotten everything from emails. I mean, I know we've said it before, but it's a thank you podcast for a year. Text messages, phone calls, comments, and stuff like that. And uh, when Shane and I were talking about these topics, it was, why did we originally start the podcast? And originally, it was for ourselves. It was for ourselves. Be like, hey, man, this is going to be therapy for us. And if it helps one person, hey, we're stoked. It's been cool. Let's just, uh, I think I sent you the photo earlier, Shane, of the of my iPad of the we did signatures on there of okay, this is the podcast, you're going to sign your name here, you're going to date it that we're doing this podcast for us, and this is going to be our little healing journey or whatever you want to call it. And if it helps one person, rad. If it doesn't, that's a bummer. But our expectations were for ourselves first, because the better we are, the more we can help other people. And it definitely has. So I'm pretty stoked on it, and we're going to continue that. Shane and I have also talked about a lot of the podcasts out there have a lot of intros as far as ads and sponsorships. And we were on the same path of, we want to keep this as grassroots as we can. And we're gonna start doing stuff like, hopefully, cups, some merchandise, little things that if you guys ever want to buy, we're gonna have that stuff come out here pretty soon, or by the end of the year. That's our plan. But we don't want to put any long ads up there to where the podcast gets interrupted. We just want to keep it a grassroots type of flow, and just keep it pretty simple. So that's our vision of the podcast as a whole, and just keep it interactive and inspiring, and hopefully we can bring some value to whoever listens to this, and keep it going. That's kind of where we're at right now. What do you think, Shane?
Yeah, I think when we talked about all this stuff first, I was resistant to even considering doing any of that stuff. I don't want to advertise. I listen to podcasts. I fast forward through that, the music and the intro and the cool guy stuff. It was, but I understand the need for some of that. And now that we're at this point where it feels like we probably do need to do some of this and polish it up. You've been pushing on that, doing a ton of work, which I appreciate. And I hope, people will see when it starts panning out. But I think that like the concept of what the Rick team is we are hoping to have people want to consider themselves part of the Rick team. That's what you and I talked about recently, was like, what is this? So this podcast is not just about two unqualified dudes talking about mental health, but like we start bringing in guests that are qualified, and we start shifting the mentality into creating a network of people who have that same Rick team mentality of like, hey, when somebody and the beauty, like you and I talked, it's like anybody can listen to this, a family member. You don't have to be a firefighter, hopefully, to identify with some of this stuff. At least from my perspective, I hope that anyone that listens to this could understand the concept of what a true like rapid intervention crew, a RIC team, does in a fire and why we set that up, and then translate those thoughts, translate those techniques, tactics, whatever, into the same thing with this kind of thing. When someone that you love in your life, someone that you're close to, is experiencing any level of difficulty, how to deploy the RIC team the appropriate way to get that person assistance and get them on the track to minimize the fallout, the damage, the length of time it takes to heal, because that's what a good RIC team does, is soften up that building and come up with all these egress points and bring all the tools you might need to the fight, hoping you never need any of them. But then at the end, it's like, if somebody calls for it, ideally you got it all right there, and you put into action a plan that you've come up with based off what the needs are. So I would hope the mentality that we're trying to push is something that people are starting to understand. It's like all these topics we talk about are just little pieces of the puzzle in the global perspective of all of it. And a lot of it comes from our interaction with professionals, our interaction with our brothers and sisters who are consistently calling and texting us and emailing us and going through this. So that's how I envision it. And you kind of sold me on that idea that like, hey, there's something cool. Like when you're into something like that, you get a coffee cup that says Rick team on it. Cause it's like a reminder that, hey, I have that Rick team mentality, and that's actually a good thing. We want to build that, just build that like pride, and also like that camaraderie in this, that like, hey, we're all in this together. Put the tough guy shit aside. It would be awesome if we're all, in that Rick team mentality. So I like that concept, and I hope that it resonates with people, and then we see where it goes,
Yeah, yeah. No, it's that was, and honestly, man, that wasn't even my idea. Teaching out at the college, somebody asked me, they're like, "Hey, do you guys have any merchandise we can buy, like a coffee cup or a T-shirt?" And I was like, "Wow, that's a good idea. Solid, dude. Thanks for the heads up on that." And I
Yeah.
came to talk to you about that, and you were initially, like you said, like, "I don't know, man," and I was like, "I thought
Pack
the
sand.
same." Yeah, yeah, pretty much like screw you.
Yeah. Like, well,
Yeah.
it was one of those like, who the fuck is gonna buy a coffee cup with Rick team? I'm like, guys are gonna look at that as a joke, but the more and more we talked, yeah, like I was saying, all those reasons I just gave. So
Yeah, yeah, and I also looked at it too, like, when you're at a station, right? You have a station logo, you have a station slogan, you've got, your station T-shirts, a hat. They got the coffee cups for that station, whatever, right? And it's just something. If somebody wants it, just how we talked about, hey, if you want to listen to our podcast, awesome. If you don't, go pound sand. We don't care. Like, you can turn it off. You can go listen to something else. We're not going to be shoving merchandise or any of this stuff down your throat. It's like, hey, man, if you want some, grab some. If you don't, then you don't. It's all good. It's just something that we're throwing out there if you want it. And that was kind of the concept. And I feel like we talk about the tribe a lot. I feel like it'll, let us feel like you're a part of a team, you're a part of something, you don't feel alone, and you kind of have something like when we did the SGB shot, right? What did we get? I got the little grounding rock, right? Or something like that,
yeah,
because it's just something that you get of like, hey, man, you know what? This was a change um, in my life for these reasons. And it was just something to remember that part of that season of life, right? So that's how I look at it, kind of just something simple, and
yep.
it'll be there, right?
Yeah, no,
So
absolutely.
yeah, yeah. And that takes us on to the next topic, man. There's something that we're not going to get too deep into it, because it's still a process you're in that I'm going to start as well. I
Well,
didn't. even think of doing any of it until you brought it to my attention. You can say as much as you want or as little as you want, but yeah, what do you know what I'm talking about, man?
Yeah, well, a little backstory on that stuff. So basically, we have built a bunch of these partnerships and collaborations with professionals that have really helped a bunch of our people throughout this process. So, we've touted several doctors and businesses that, do things for us and offer different types of modalities to treat all kinds of stuff. And it's been great. Some of this work you and I have done has panned out. Some of it hasn't. Some of it initially was great, and then some of it, is still going. And I think, just like the normal ebb and flow of the tide, things are going to change. And so we're closing some chapters on things we did, learned a lot of lessons. We're moving on to the next chapter. So there's a lot of exciting stuff. I perceive it as exciting. There's going to be a new wellness headquarters coming in Irvine, Southern California here. And the individual is backed by someone who is very wealthy, and they are very much dedicated to providing first responders what they need. Now, there's several places like this nationally, and I'm really excited to see how this one pans out. I believe in this doctor. I know he cares about us. He's actually the price point for us on the SGB is going to be great. The other types of modalities he's going to offer is going to be great. And it's going to be an all-encompassing kind of deal. And what's really cool is the opportunity you and I will have to get in and actually influence how the flow is. Because one of my suggestions to them was, you get a lot of us that go to these places to get a shot, and you're just by yourself. You don't really know what to expect. You're trying to get sorted out. You don't have anybody to talk to. So the current model is like a lot of times you go into this place. I mean, they're nice to you, and you're in this calm environment, but all of a sudden you get the shot and your mind is clear and you're calm, but it's weird. I mean, like a guy just got it the other day and he texted me that, dude, the calm is eerie, and I was like, oh, I get it, man. Like, I think you get it. Right. So,
Yeah.
I was like, hey, having somebody there that's almost an advocate, maybe somebody, a firefighter that's been through it, so that you at least have somebody that kind of understands where you're at. There's something nice about that, and that's a RIC team concept. It's like the comfort of being interior on a fire and knowing, hey, things go sideways, at least I know I've got a good RIC team on the outside that will at least do their best to try to come and get me. So he loved it. It's something that we're going to try to like integrate into these things. But as that all came about, we talked about different therapies like ketamine, and ketamine is something that I've seen several people um, go through over this past year and a half. And I've seen some really good results from it. And so I, through discussions, consults, reading, everything I've done to really like truly delve into it, I decided to give it a try. And I was like, hey, I'm going to give it a shot and see if there's a benefit to it. Now, caveat on that is like, I feel pretty good overall. And I feel like it's one of those, I'm not too worried about let me back up. I had a clear vision in my head as to why I want to try it based off what I understand that it does, So I was looking for some clarity, something like that. And just to kind of maybe squash any ego that's preventing me from seeing a clear path forward. I've just got so much going on. And, what I've read, how it generates new neural pathways, increases neuroplasticity, things like that. It's like, well, let me give it a shot and see. I talked to several people. I was like, I'm not seeking it as, just because I'm not doing the work. Like, I'm doing work and things are going well. But some of the discussions I'd had with people too was very interesting to hear the different insights they'd had, and so there was a saying that got me where they basically said something along the lines of, you don't always get what you need, but you always get what you want. I'm sorry, I messed that up. You don't always get what you want, but you always get what you need. So basically the idea is that when you're in that state, your brain is taking you where you need to go. It's helping you sort through these things of like stuck points or things you can't see clearly or whatever that looks like. And so I think I told you, I did my first session, and what I feel like is I saw an awesome trailer of a movie that like I can't wait to see. And so, yeah, for now I'm gonna leave it at that because I'm gonna, yeah, when we get done today, I'm actually heading in for another go, and I do one more, and then I'll kind of gauge it from there. They recommend 4 to 6 on your initial uh, attempt at using this as a tool. I very much want to not rely on this in the future as something that things are stuck. I'm just going to go jam over and do this. I feel like it's a pretty intense thing that should be reserved for people who are in the right headspace, who've done adequate work. I believe in the shot first as a biological reset. And then I believe that, you know, you need to go into it with a very clear vision of like what your intentions are of why you're even exploring this. Not just I'm just going to go do this because I'm in a bad way. You know, I think that that isn't from what I've seen and heard and stuff, but the the studies, the research are pretty powerful. It's hard to argue with it. And there's a lot of great stuff. I did a ton of research on YouTube and yeah, so that's kind of what I've been doing. And again, that's available already through several of the connections we've made, but we're trying to make it where it's even more so.
Yeah, yeah. When you told me that, dude, I was really surprised. Really surprised. Even like for myself, man. Sorry, guys, hold on one sec. Even for myself, guys, I did not think that I would even do something like ketamine because I wasn't really versed on it, and honestly haven't done much research on it. I've just heard uh, different people talking about it, and I'm not a drug seeker, and you hear different things. And um, when Shane said that, I was like, okay, I need to kind of look into this a little bit more. And as far as Shane, I do the work. I think just that's part of life is doing the work. And I don't look at the SGB any different. It's like if you want to get the SGB a couple times a year because you want to, because life is super stressful, you can. But um that's not my intent with the SGB. My intent with the SGB is like, okay, I get it. Life is challenging. It's meant to be challenging. Life is stressful. That's good. Stress produces, outcomes. But sometimes you do need to reset because uh, of traumatic events or different things that happen because your body is acting in a different way and it needs to get reset. So I look at the SGB as that way as well. And the ketamine is just like you, Shane. I haven't gotten it yet. But some of the stuff you told me, and as the journey goes, you'll tell us more. But it's really piqued my interest for sure, and I think I'm going to get it. I've talked to one of our doctors already, and I think it's going to be here on the schedule, pretty quick. But I'm excited to see because with you, dude, you have a very good outlook and expectation of yourself. So when you talk to me first, and then we talk to everybody here on the podcast, your intent with it and your sense of self, it really impresses on me of why we're doing something, and going into it with the right expectation, not some, hey, this is just going to be, uh, I'm going to escape from reality and go get this, and all my problems are going to go away for a little bit, and then anytime I feel that, I'm going to get it again. That's never been my intent with any of this. It's like, hey, if you need a tool for something, then I'm going to use it, but I'm also going to put the work in. So I'm going to try it, dude. I don't know when, but I'm stoked. You're going to go in today, this evening. I'm sure I'll talk to you tomorrow. You'll let me know how some of that goes, and then as that journey goes, we'll bring more stuff out to you guys. But
We'll see if I'm back on the planet if I call you. But no,
yeah,
what you just said too, though, is good because like when I went in, one of the things that I did, um, I knew there's a potential for, um, like, hey, this could open up a can of worms of stuff that I hadn't been ready to unpack if I haven't. You know, I feel like I've tried to be open. I feel like I am consistently doing what I need to do, but I was also realistic with myself. Like, hey, there could be a whole bunch. I was joking with my wife. They're like, yeah, if I come out there and I'm bawling and crying like a baby, right? And she's laughing and stuff like that. But one of the things that I did was I scheduled an appointment with the talk therapist that is the first one that I connected with. I always mention her, Amy Parks. She's a 10, always looking out for first responders. I hit her up, Monday. I'm like, hey, doc, it's been a while, but I was like, got any availability? And she's like, absolutely. So I did my deal on Tuesday, and then Wednesday I was in to see her, and we had like an hour conversation. It was great, and she was stoked to hear. And she's like, yeah, I think your approach to it's great. And then even some of the little insights I had during it, she was able to help me kind of like, because as I talked, she picked up pieces and told me like, hey, that's the first time I've heard you say that. You said that, and I'm only sharing this stuff with the people I'm close to because I want that feedback from people who have been with me on this ride for the last year and a half, whatever it's been. Because I think that's important, is to know that like what people are, they'll be honest with you and give you that feedback. So anyways, yeah, ketamine stuff I think is awesome as a tool. A lot of good stuff coming down the pipeline. Talking about the merchandise, like we don't even have any of that shit. So if you're hearing this and you're like, cool, I want to buy a coffee cup, yeah, well, we'll get it eventually. But we don't even have any of this stuff. This is all just exciting stuff we're talking about that we're trying to build out. So even the Wellness HQ, we're thinking fall. So we'll hopefully be able to announce information about that, share the phone numbers and the emails and the contacts and the people you need to get in hold of and how the processes work. But yeah, it's been wild, man, all the stuff that's been happening.
Yeah, yeah. And I want to piggyback more on like what you said as far as everybody's part of the Rick team. I want to hit that home too as well. It's not just Shane and I. We're just trying to start something. Hopefully that it can morph into something to where everybody feels they're a part of it. And when that needs to get activated in your department or your family or something like that, you see these signs, you have these tools. And if you guys replay this podcast even up to now, like Shane has said, a lot of little nuggets that I'm sure you guys are catching because I'm catching them. Talking to someone like a therapist prior to the ketamine, right? Making sure that you have these tools in line just in case something happens. And I think any podcast we do, Shane, like I'm always learning something new about myself and about you and about everything. And I think it's pretty rad.
Likewise, yeah. Yeah, and that's another thing too, is like I went online and there's a ton of stuff, good and bad, online. And one of the commonalities I found is that, vet out providers. So, we recognize that this has now potentially become nationwide. So if you live in Tennessee or wherever you're at, and it's like, yeah, cool, bro, you got it in SoCal, but I'm not in SoCal. Like these types of clinics are popping up all over the nation, but go vet those places. Make sure you know what you're getting into, because like where I did mine the other day, it's like it was good, it was solid, but it wasn't our providers we've been using before. But I also went in with the headspace of just like, okay, I'm good on that. I have the support outside this building. But if you're just like going in blind and it's a place that's literally like, oh yeah, hey, we just jump in this room and we're just going to start pumping you full of this stuff. I mean, it's going to be a big difference. And then there's even there's home stuff that they're and I ran into. I didn't really share it before on the podcast, but one of our guys that came through, he did the full 2-week ketamine Monday, Wednesday, Friday protocols down south with Chris Romig and with Stella, and man, he loved it and he did great on it, and it was a huge boost for him. However, prior to him doing that, there was a process where they were kind of like, oh, well, we'll send you some home ketamine. You take it this lozenge and you suck on it or whatever, and you have your own thing at home. And I was like, I don't know if I dig that. That sounds kind of crazy at this point. I'm like, I understand that there must be, and then it was like, oh, it's low dose. It's no big deal. So then I called Doc and he's just like, absolutely not. He goes, that is not what you want to do right now at this stage. He's like, that is later when you understand stuff, if it's a maintenance tool and you really know how to deal with it. And he goes, but if it goes sideways, that's a 911 call, Whereas when you're in a controlled environment, if something happens, I mean, they can stop things immediately. They're monitoring you. You essentially have a professional there. So, when you hear this stuff, it's like not like get off and be like, cool, I'm just going to go book an appointment and rush off to it. I mean, I think there's a responsibility that goes with understanding what you're doing and getting into. Because like I told you, man, I can completely see how this can be addictive. I can see that it should be so easy to just be like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this all the time. Like blast off. This is great. And
blast off.
Yeah, it's just, dude, I'll share it all later, but yeah, I already told you some of it, but yeah, it was, it was wild.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff, man. That is good stuff. I'm excited about it. And, for your journey and and then just us talking about it. And what I think is cool about this podcast as well, dude, is it's all documented, right? I'm seeing the change in myself from the past year. I'm seeing the change in you. I'm seeing the change in others, and a lot of this is documented, and you're able to see or hear the conversations and the topics. And we would go back into some of the old podcasts, and you're like, dude, we were explaining the SGB wrong. Some of the
Oh
stuff
yeah, yeah,
we were kind of
absolutely.
explaining, right? And I'm like, dude, I didn't even realize that, but it's been a year of learning, a year of like you said, just uh, some of the stuff has dried up, and we're going on to the next thing. And it's been fun, man. It's been a fun ride, and we're going to continue the ride and bring more, like I said, more vision to the podcast and more value to everybody else for sure. And no, I'm stoked, man. I'm stoked, dude, for sure.
Yeah,
And
me too.
yeah, I'm
I'm
stoked,
excited.
man. So there's something you said that I want to hit on. You talked about clarity, right? And I think, dude, especially on the job, uh, just in life, it's really easy to lose that clarity. Easy to lose. Where am I going? What's my roadmap? What's my blueprint? You bring this up a lot because coming from being a pirate, you're doing some all this treatment, right? Um, where's my true north, right? Like how it's easy to get off track, but you still got to get yourself back on track, right? Maybe you'll veer off a little bit. And there's the story you told me about Bonaire. That's one of your favorite islands to go diving. And I think that's a story we can tell one day because more and more people have asked me, they want to know more about you. And we'll get more into that later in different podcasts. But I kind of look at it like that at the True North, man. When you told me you were cruising down, where were you going again? And you stopped off on Bonaire?
Curacao.
Okay, Curacao. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're like, you know what? That island looks pretty cool. You knew where you wanted to go, but you kind of veered off a little bit. And that veer off turned into what for
Oh, it
you?
completely changed the course of my life.
Yeah, right? And I
Yeah.
feel like that's what this has done to me. Us. Just, hey,
Yep.
let's start the podcast. Hey, let's where's the true north? Where's the clarity? Where's the journey might be going this way, but we kind of took a little left-hand turn, and we're now it's changed the trajectory for me for sure in a lot of ways, and it's been pretty awesome, and so sometimes that clarity gets lost, but as long as you don't stop, right, you keep cruising, you keep paying attention to yourself. We talk about self-awareness a lot, your intent, why are you doing something, what are you looking for. And I think with everything we're trying to do on this, Rick concept, hopefully it can bring clarity to people for whatever you guys are going through, whether it's marriage, whether it's work stuff, it's a personal journey, whatever. I think, especially right now where we are in the times of the world, there's so much confusion and no one knows what to believe, where to go. I feel like there's a lot of loss of sense of self out there right now. I feel like we lack a lot of leadership in a lot of ways. Um, Maybe I'm just talking out of my butt. I don't know, but that's what I see overall. And I'm hoping this podcast can bring some kind of hope, some kind of calmness, some kind of optimism to like, hey man, these guys actually freaking care. They are trying to give information and put some work in. Because we see people suffering from the job, on and off the job. We see what's going on, and the work we're putting in is because, first of all, I was suffering pretty bad, right, in a dark place, and now that I've come out of that, I want my losses or my failures or whatever you want to call it. If it can help the next person, that's really what I want to happen. And when I wasn't clear, I wanted something like this. I wanted someone to be like, hey, where can I go to feel better? Who do I talk to? What doctors do I talk to? Who's vetted? Who's not vetted? Who's our tribe? Right? Who the heck do you believe? Right? And so I'm hoping this podcast can do that for whoever is listening. It can bring you guys some kind of clarity. You guys can kind of get your compass pointed in the direction you want to go, so you can find that true north, like we talk about, and then just keep that optimistic attitude. If you keep working, things things will be just fine, but you got to put the work in with whatever that is. If you don't, then hey man, you're going to be stuck, right? You're going to be stuck in whatever situation you're in, and you got to take personal responsibility for yourself. You can only control you. You can't control anybody else. You can only control your thoughts. You can't control somebody else's thoughts. And you can only lead by example. So, that's the purpose of this, and I think that's what we're trying to convey. And as far as the ketamine and the SGB and the doctors and the center that's going to be coming out in fall that we're going to be a part of, like, these are all just tools. If you guys want to use them, they're there. Reach out to us. If you don't, then you don't. But these are things I know that I wish I would have had a couple years ago. That probably would have, I don't want to say speed up the process because everybody has their own timeline, but it definitely would have sped it up in a good way for me personally. So, yeah.
Yeah. So yesterday, when I saw Dr. Parks, we were just kind of wrapping. I was summarizing this last year, and she's like, "Wow, it's so cool that," she's like, "from your DUI, all this is spun up." She's like, "That's a great thing. You took a really shitty situation, and you got, you've impacted all these people, and you and your buddy Eric, blah blah blah, all the stuff you just said, right? We've tried." And then as I talked to her, I said, "Yeah, it's been a slog where we've tried to help, but then there's people that you can't help, or you can help so much." And then so I heard recently about a guy who we had dealt with who had a relapse, and doesn't sound promising what's going on with him. And and it's funny, like, she said something yesterday that I thought was really applicable, which it was so as in she was talking to me. She was like, "You shouldn't be working harder than the person that's trying to get better. Like, that person should be putting in the most work," right? And I think that dovetails into what you're saying, which is like, all the things we're talking about are just options, and you are the only person in your own driver's seat. You know what's best for you. If your faith is powerful and important, then you should dive into that and reconnect with that, or reinvigorate that, or whatever, right? Versus somebody else that's different, that's fine. But finding your way and seeking that, seeking these things is great. The problem I run into is, I think we have such a right now society where you just click and everything's done, or you click a button and tomorrow there's a box on your driveway with whatever bullshit you bought. That doesn't work like this, so this whole thing is one of those where, like, it doesn't mean that you're every day battling demons and it's just horrible in the morning. We talked about it multiple times on different podcasts, but like, you and I both have bad days occasionally, but they're not every day, and they're not even every week or every month. It's just, they're sporadic. But as those things happen, you reach into that toolbox and you go, "Okay, I need this today. This is the right." And so that's where I said, for you, it's your Bible. For me, it may be the sauna. It may be a quiet walk. It may be a podcast. It may be talking to my buddy. I might call you. You might call me. We might call somebody else that's close to you. I mean, all these different things. But, like, you go into that box and you go, "Okay, I've learned all these things today. I'm here. I'm going to use this." Boom. But that's on you. Like, it's not on me as your buddy or your advocate or your support to, check on you every day, to text you every day, I mean, I think in, like, early fragile states, it's important for people to, really kind of, like, be in that Rick team mentality of, like, we got your back. But even as a Rick team outside, like, you have an interior attack responsibility that if you push too far and you're reckless because you want to be a tough guy, or you're not paying attention to the interior conditions, listening to radio traffic, know what's going on, like, you're getting yourself into trouble. And now what you're doing is effectively putting me and the guys that are working with me or girls that are working with me on the RIC team, right? You're putting us in jeopardy, because now we have to push farther to come get you because you weren't paying attention and you put yourself in a bad spot. Does it mean that we're going to give up on you? No, but it also drastically reduces the chance that we can actually get hands on you and get you out of there safely. So it's a matter of understanding that it's a collaborative effort, but you need to be the one doing the majority of the work. So, like, when you look back at your journey, you have done the bulk of the work. I look back at mine, I have done the bulk of the work. I have dipped into these different resources to learn or to examine or to simply look at and decide it wasn't for me. But at the end of the day, like, the responsibility is on me. And so that is something I think is super important to take away from what you just said, which is, you know, your options are there. We have all these contacts. We've said, reach out to us, but understand, like, it's your burden to carry. Like, you're the one that's got to sort it out. You have support, but you don't get to dump your shit on everybody else and get a get out of jail free card, which then allows you to, like, live this free, perfect life without having to resolve a lot of this stuff. And it's not a quick process. So the idea is it's a mindset where if you look at it and you're like, hey, I'm going to do this and I'm going to be a better person and I want to really, truly make this difference, then you will day in, day out make those improvements, and you'll have leaps and bounds at times, and there'll be days you feel stuck, and there'll be days that you plateau, and all these things happen. It's just a natural progression, I believe, in life.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, that's good, man. And the other day it was probably, I don't know, dude. I think I called you after I was talking to a buddy, and I know he's going to listen to this. So I know when you listen to this, man, I'm talking about you, but it really humbled me a lot. We were talking in front of the fire station till about 1:30 in the morning. And it's somebody I've known since I was a teenager, dude, and he was just like, hey, man, I've been listening to your podcast, and, I think it's awesome. You guys are getting out there and talking, and we just have come closer. What I've noticed through all this is I've had deeper relationships now come out of this than I've ever had in my life, I think, with guys on the job, right? Because I've put myself out there, and I was like, hey, man, here's my dirty laundry. Have nothing to hide. Yeah, was I weak at times? Did I feel weak? Did I feel stupid? Did I maybe not hold my end of the bargain up sometimes because I couldn't pull my weight on the crew because I was so mentally checked out, could barely be there? Yeah. But hey, man, I'm human. It is what it is. And what I've noticed is when you are fully open and transparent, if you want to be, um, you know, uh, that goes a long way, and guys respect that. And I'm not saying that you're trying to gain their respect. I'm saying you have to respect yourself enough to be honest with yourself, to be vulnerable with yourself enough to take accountability for yourself, say where you're wrong, and fix it, like what we're talking about. And specifically, I think, in the fire service, in something like this, with where the majority of us are type A personalities, you're able to sense bullshit real quick. Right. And with that conversation I had with him, it was very eye-opening, and he's just started opening up to me, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. Like, it was a real, like, a man-to-man talk, and he was like, hey, man, I just want you to know, there's a lot of guys out there that feel just like you do, and you're not alone, dude, and we're all figuring this journey of life out together, and we're all here to support each other. None of us know the answers, but we're all here. And I thought that was awesome. I don't think I could have had a lot of these conversations with a lot of these guys if we didn't start the podcast, man. If you didn't call me that one day, hey, motherfucker, come and see me, right? If you didn't go to the COE, right? All that kind of stuff. So a lot of great stuff has happened this past year, and I'm just excited, dude. I'm stoked on it. It's
same here. I
it's
mean,
been great, man.
yesterday I had a conversation, similar kind of vein is what you're talking about, with a guy on my job that he's an icon where I work, and it was very open. He just went through the Center of Excellence. He got his shot. He's still early on in the kind of building foundation stage of all those things, but he's doing great. And when his foundation's there, then he's going to share with us, and hopefully we'll have him on the podcast. And the guy's a legend. I mean, I can't wait for him to be a part of this, because, like, the credibility it lends to this kind of stuff, where he said to me, and a handful of guys have said to me, is like, you being one of the quote unquote tough guys on the job, it's like that has made it a little more normalized. And then, but go back to yesterday when I was talking to Dr. Parks, I remember specifically, probably, I'll bet you in the last year, we talked about those wellness nights I did she helped me with, where we had, people that were invited to come, and well, the whole department was invited to come. First night we had 25. Um, Out of those, and then throughout probably the last 6 8 months, I've had several people reach out to me for her contact information. So, she is super confidential. She will not reveal anybody she talks to. She's like, I can't tell you any of the guys that I've talked to. I said, yeah, that's awesome. She's following HIPAA and everything. But I said, yeah, you got to be dozens, huh? The guy's been hitting you up. And she's like, it hasn't been as much as you might think. She goes, it happens once in a while. And that goes back to what we were just talking about, where, people reach out and I give them the contact and they don't want to make the call, So, her and I talked about, well, maybe strategically the better thing to do is get the person's contact, pass it to her, then she reaches out. So that goes back to our fire culture of the, if you're making these calls, if you're listening to something like this, like the guy I'm talking about yesterday, his whole thing was like, I'm telling people, kind of like you said, he goes, if you're already calling me, just go get the shot. And if you need to go further than that, then look at a program that's going to work for you. And, we were laughing on the phone because when he shares his story, it's a pretty intense one. Like, he didn't get the shot and it didn't go good, and he wishes now that he probably would have done it sooner. So, although
Yeah.
on the same thing, I think it was necessary for him to get to where he was. And he even said that. He goes, I don't know if I would have done it if things would have still planned out the same. So that's the beauty of, kind of like you were saying about Bonaire, if I would have just sailed right by that island, my entire life trajectory changes on lots of different things. I mean, I became a dive instructor there. I lived there for 9 months, following what I thought was gonna be 2 days. I've
Hmm.
been back there 6 times since. I have lifelong friends. I love the place. I'm always a day away from selling everything I own and moving there. So it's
Yeah, I'm
and
surprised you came back, dude. And
it was pretty.
we haven't even talked about that yet. Your Bonaire trip.
Yeah,
That'll have
it
to
was
be another
close.
podcast. Yeah, man.
No, yeah, definitely. Yeah, share that stuff.
Yeah,
But
man.
no, it's good, man. The guys and the girls that are reaching out and stuff that's going on. I mean, I know it's nothing stops. I'm sure people heard about some of the recent fatalities. Some more firefighters we lost in SoCal. I know there was a recent suicide, and then I also know there was a death during the firefighter Olympics down in San Diego. A young kid from Oakland.
Yeah.
It was a booze related deal. Drowns in the ocean off Pacific Beach at 2 in the morning, and shitty deal, but avoidable probably. He's 25. Does that mean that he's new and he's not already traumatized? Like, no, you get this shit immediately on the job, and that's where we have a responsibility to look out for one another.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And now, like, there's something that you talk about too. It's um like a cultural PTSI, PTSD, right? Now the guy's back. That doesn't stop. Life goes on. Now you still got to unpack that stuff, deal with it, right? Get back on that rig and do that kind of stuff. So, um, yeah, man, it's it's been enjoyable for sure. I think it's been enjoyable, and we've made a way, way, way bigger impact than I ever thought we were gonna make. And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back or attaboys or anything like that. I just think it's been pretty awesome to be a part of. I think in as long as I've been in the fire service, um, something we're I don't want to say a paradigm shift, but we're in something that's pretty abnormal, and we're talking about stuff that's pretty abnormal. So to be a part of it and to have men and women actually listen, I think it's humbling. Once again, I'm pretty stoked on it. So, yeah, man.
yeah, and that's another thing. It's we I think we didn't mention this at the beginning. Not only are we trying to start doing remote podcasts so we can start having guests and do this in a more kind of formal format instead of just when we can catch up. Eric did a great job sketching out a map for us on where we see this thing going, and kind of even trying to get out just a steady stream of content, so a more steady schedule. But along with that goes some opportunities for us to visit places and do some of this in person. So we've been contacted multiple times by different agencies that have requested us to, hey, what do you guys do? Are you able to come here and teach this stuff? And so Eric and I spent several hours coming up with a like a 4-hour template of a simple course takes half a day. Start at 8, be done by 12, start at 1, be done by 5, whatever that looks like, where we're able to come to a place and present this information in person in a different way. So it's not the way we do the podcast, but it's actually like a framework that we then can just deliver each time. And it's predicated on a lot of the Rick team ideals, but at the same thing, it's you being able to share that suicide story you have, us both being able to share our independent stories, with me having the alcohol in my life, you having the issue there that created, the separation from the job. So we have these different, so having that interaction interpersonally is I think a powerful way for us to get this information out, and then to help the people from whatever that looks like, the department that we may present to, or even in a corporate structure, because we can tailor this stuff to whatever your, as you call it, the tribe is. So that's going to be something coming too, is like, if somebody wants us to come present, I mean, we've all talked about, it's like, are we willing to travel across the nation? It's like, yeah, if we believe in this, like, we need to put our money where our mouth is and figure out a way to make it to where we're not trying to make a fortune off people. It's just enough to, get a hotel, eat some food, and make sure that the people get what they need. So that's kind of in its infant stages too, but the basic curriculum's built, the framework's built. And then from that, we hope to spool up more. That'll be kind of cool, but we'll keep people informed as those things build up. But yeah, I just want to mention that.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you mentioned that, man. And yeah, hit us up on email. Are you cool with giving people the curriculum that we came up with, or is that more of kind of, yeah, just shoot us some emails, and we can do it from there, because we do have a whole curriculum and it's all
I mean,
planned out and stuff like that.
I'm
So
all about open source,
okay, cool.
but at the same time, I think that anybody can type into Chat GPT, build a 4-hour mental health class. You and I
Yeah.
specifically built it tailored to our stories and
Yes.
our personal experiences. We both work for big fire departments, that have credibility, and we run a lot of calls. So I'll share stuff, and it's like, have at it. Good luck trying to teach it, the depth and level we have. But
Yeah.
it's also really rough because there's not really a lot of substance behind the framework. The idea that you and I wanted was, we're not reading PowerPoints. We're literally, the slides were memory joggers of us to just keep on track, so we don't do our normal thing and go down rabbit holes and rants about random shit that get our squirrel brains going off. We want to be
Yeah.
able to look at a PowerPoint slide that was just a general bullet point of like, oh yeah, we're talking about this, and then go back to sharing those personal stories. So
Yeah.
yes, if anyone wants the stuff, I'm happy to share anything. I know, again, it's a matter of whatever people need.
Yeah.
So
For sure, man. No, I think it was good, man.
cool.
Yeah, so that was a good run, good podcast, man. And hit us up, guys, if you guys have any topics that you guys would like us to hit. If you guys hear stuff around the kitchen table, or I know we have some doctors that listen to this as well, some therapists. If there's any topics you guys would like us to hit on, or any particular guests that you guys think would be good to have on here, let us know. Hit us up through email. And now that we can do all this remote stuff, we have the stuff pretty dialed in now, I feel like. So we'll get some guests on and just start diving into more topics and bringing some more value for everybody, and hopefully it can help. So yeah, anything else, Shane?
Yeah, I mean, along with that, just if anybody wants to be on the podcast, reach out to us. I mean, if you got something to offer, that goes for professionals down to like brothers and sisters that just want to share.
Yeah.
That'd be cool to like have you reach out as well. And then I know like Eric's working hard on the social media side of the house and the Spotify. If you want to leave comments, if you want to do all that stuff, I don't even know how to do any of it. But if that's the way to interact on there, that apparently it helps. So,
Awesome, dude. I'm glad you remembered that, because I forgot.
Yeah. Well, you're just because you've been building it and you've been doing so much work. But yeah, I know that
Yeah.
that's important. So yeah, if you take a time to leave the review, follow us, whatever all that stuff is, would be cool, I guess, and appreciated. But also, like, I've never done that for anyone, so if you don't, I don't take it personal. But yeah,
I love it, man. That's good, dude.
no,
So
full
we're
transparency, right?
Yeah, full transparency, man. And honestly, I'm not a social media guy. We've talked about this a lot. I really can care less about it, but like anything else, it's a tool, and I really think when social media is used in the proper way, you can reach a lot of people and help a lot of people. So that's why I'm trying to get more into it. So the more people we reach, the more people we can help, and I think that is ultimately the mission for sure. So I have an Instagram, Paget, and you can also reach me at my email. It's pagetcoaching@gmail.com. And then where can they reach you at, Big Dog?
I'm at ricfirecaptain@gmail.com.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, right on, guys. Thanks again for the past year. We got a lot of stuff we're working on, and we will see you guys on the next one.